When a family spends the day at an indoor adventure center, they have no idea of the hidden dangers lurking inside. A single desperate decision ignites a life and death struggle to survive. This is the fatal breakdown of the tragic death of Carl O'Keefe. Carl O'Keefe was planning a fun Saturday out with the family at the Kong Adventure Center in Keswick, England, on April 22, 2023. The 49-year-old father of four would be attending a birthday party for a niece, and they would all be enjoying the fun together. This adventure center included a huge selection of rock-climbing walls of various kinds for all skill levels, and an outdoor component with a ropes course and water features to explore. This place was particularly fun for younger kids with an indoor cave and tunnel system. It was one activity that was safe and contained indoors, so parents could let their kids climb through alone, or even join in the adventure with them. The dragon mouth entrance amped up the fun for kids crawling past its teeth. Carl bought the tickets and got ready to have some fun with the kids. He led the group through the teeth and reached forward to pull himself through. As the tunnel went up, he crawled on his hands and knees, calling out to the kids to follow him. The walls of the tunnel were smooth fiberglass in most places, and rough in others. It made it easy to grip and pull yourself up to the next area. The only light inside the tunnels was from their individual headlamps. This gave him a view of the area just in front of him, but he couldn't quite make out what was ahead. They weren't given any map or detail on the path inside, so each turn and change was a surprise. The kids made quick work with their small size and easy movements. Carl came to a horizontal section and started crawling forward. For this part, he had to lay flat on his stomach and pull forward with his arms. He might be thinking he ate too much at lunch for this, but all in a lighthearted take on what was happening. He had no idea how drastically things were about to change. Carl could feel the tunnel narrowing down around his body, but he didn't know how to proceed. There were kids piled up behind him, and honestly, it would probably open up to a room or an exit at any moment. He continued on forward, but more tentatively now. It wasn't tight around his body, but he couldn't push up on his knees, couldn't turn around, and could barely lift his head to point his lamp forward. Carl suddenly got a glimpse of the area at the end of this part of the tunnel. He could see what looked like a turn or opening at the end, so he pushed on. He was at a child's playground, so he wasn't feeling particularly fearful. It was just uncomfortable, and a person naturally starts to panic with the physical constraint. The kids behind him easily turned around and explored different passages, but Carl had no such luxury. He continued to the end, hoping to make a turn to see light at the end of the tunnel. But there was no light. It was just a dead end that wasn't much bigger than the tunnel itself. After the building stress of feeling claustrophobic, this dead end was enough to start a full panic. Considering his options, Carl decided to try to ball up a little and try to flip his way back the other way. He couldn't imagine any other way to do it. Carl was really smart and understood the physics involved here. Quite literally, he was hoping to start his PhD in astrophysics in the coming year. The tunnel had twists and turns, as well as obstacles along the way, so he really needed to be crawling forward to find his way back out. Crawling through such a narrow tunnel, with rock pressing against your back and chest, can trigger a deep primal fear of being stuck and utterly alone. We may not always control the spaces we find ourselves in, but we can use therapy to explore and understand the fears within. BetterHelp is the sponsor of this video, and they're on a mission to make starting therapy easier. We carry this stuff: anxiety, old trauma, self-doubt, and it's like living inside a mental tunnel. Therapy has offered me a safe space to help uncover the roots of my anxieties, challenge my thought patterns, and slowly, with support, find my way back to open space and mental freedom. As a Type A personality, having a relaxed mindset allows me to be better in all parts of my life. A therapist will listen, ask questions, and help you see things from new perspectives. They can give you advice and techniques to make positive changes in your life. Fill out a questionnaire, and you will match with a therapist in as little as a couple days. Easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost if it's not the right fit. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform you can trust. Click the link in the description, or go to betterhelp.com/fatalbreakdown and get 10% off your first month of therapy. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring Fatal Breakdown. And now, back to the tunnel. Despite feeling the stress of the tight passage, he knew he was in a safe place, a kid's playground, so there should be no problem getting out or getting help. Carl started to pull his knees in and tuck his head down, in a fetal position. This might give him enough clearance to push his head back the other way. As Carl started this maneuver, it was clear that the space might be too small for this. He was getting hot, and with his face pressed against the fiberglass wall, the discomfort was turning to fear. He did everything he could to make his body compact and find a way to release his head back the other direction. Suddenly, during these strenuous efforts, Carl found himself in an immovable position. He was wedged in a way that had no release. There was nowhere to go, and he had no leverage to move his limbs at all. Immediately, he began to yell for help. Carl was feeling sick and just needed a worker to get in there and pull him free. The kids came to see his horrible position, and Carl sent them to get a worker. Despite his panic, it was understood that this was an indoor man-made cave system. Someone could just open a hatch somewhere and release him, right? Unfortunately, it simply wasn't that easy. There are many of these indoor cave systems around the world. A few companies specialize in building them, a lot like a fiberglass slide for a water park or playground, but these were molded in a tunnel style. Some manufacturers built emergency exits along the way, with a safe escape from every section, but not Kong Adventure Center. This tunnel system was behind the rock climbing walls throughout the center. This particular tunnel was actually at a dead end in the wall, but with no indication for the cavers inside, until it was too late. Easy enough when you are a child. A couple of kids could easily sit together at the end and head back the way they came, but not a full-sized man. If Carl had only seen the TripAdvisor post from Sharon Wright, he may have waited by the entrance for the kids to climb here alone. 6 years before, Robert Osler climbed in with his stepdaughter and explored the same area of the tunnel system. He was in front of his daughter and came to a tight area. He felt the same rush of panic that Carl was feeling and told his 12-year-old daughter that he was stuck. She immediately became upset and was afraid he wouldn't be able to escape. Robert tried to turn around at the dead end, but just couldn't fold his body into any position that would work. He finally decided that the only option for him was to push backwards the whole way, even the uphill parts with obstacles. Slowly but surely, Robert was able to free himself from the tight tunnel section and push backwards until he reached safety, back near the entrance. Sharon was beside herself. Her daughter was devastated, and her husband was shaken by what he had just faced. Although safely out in the open now, he had been squeezed into a dead end with no light, no fresh air, and no help at all just a few minutes before. Sharon spoke with the front desk, but they barely responded to what felt like a life-and-death situation. Sharon did what she could by posting a warning on the TripAdvisor page, but was shocked that there was no warning, or map, or instructions beyond a height limit of 6 feet. There are several reports on TripAdvisor of people being stuck, tunnels being tight, or being too big to fit safely. Robert Osler had made it out safely, but Carl wasn't nearly as lucky. He was under 6 foot tall, but clearly too big for the tiny tunnel he was now stuck in. It was immediately apparent that the position Carl was squeezed in was incredibly dangerous. His body was squeezed down so tightly, he could barely breathe. His organs were being crushed by the fold in his body, and circulation would soon be cut off. The employees at the Adventure Center came through the tunnel and tried to pull Carl by the arm or leg, but couldn't break the compact position he was in. He thought this extremely tight squeeze would last for just a moment, as he balled tightly trying to turn. The quick moment had now lasted more than 30 minutes. It was clear to the employees that they would not be able to free him. Calls were made to fire, rescue, ambulance, and police. Many specialized teams were also called: the Cumbria Ore Mines Rescue Unit, the Keswick Mountain Rescue Team, and the local Hazardous Area Response Team. The entire place was buzzing with people trying to figure out how to get to Carl. The employees explained that he looked unwell and was in a very dangerous position. The rock climbers in the center started to help the rescue team to remove the walls surrounding the tunnels. If they could just expose the fiberglass tube, surely there would be a way to open it up or release the pressure on Carl's body. It took hours to get things exposed, just to find that there was no emergency exit or other simple release possible. Carl was inside, truly suffering. He could not move his cramped body, squeezed tight in a fetal position, knees pushing into his face and ribs crushing down on his internal organs. He continued to breathe slowly and try to relax his body, but the breaths were difficult. He could feel pain inside his belly and numbness in his extremities. They needed to release this pressure on Carl's body before he suffered permanent nerve and organ damage. Over 50 rescue workers were involved in getting to Carl. After more than 4 hours in this insane position, the firefighters were able to cut away the fiberglass and break apart the tunnel behind the rock wall. Carl was immediately taken to the hospital, but was clearly in very bad shape. Carl's family was certain that this day at a child's play center could not cost anyone their life, but they were wrong. Carl spent 8 days in the hospital fighting an unwinnable battle. His body had shut down and faced multiple organ failures due to severe crush injuries suffered in the tunnel. His body was squeezed so tightly for nearly 5 hours that the blood supply was lost to essential organs. Damage was inflicted under the pressure, and his system went into shock with all of the toxic products released into the blood. On Sunday, April 30th, 49-year-old Carl O'Keefe died from his injuries. In a stunning outcome, he lost his life because a play center made no warning about the tight dead end, even after several people had complained about being stuck there, and this time, it was fatal.